So I thought today was a fitting day to talk about the cold, huh?
I guess.
Yeah, it is minus 13 degrees here this morning. So it's a little bit chilly. And
Luckily, you've gotten used to it, so you're not screaming about being freezing cold.
I have all my layers on. And it's funny though, because one of the first things that people ask when they find out that we are RVing in the mountains in the snow so
How
that
do you
we
stay
can
warm?
ski. Exactly. How do you stay warm? And so we thought we'd talk about that a little bit today. And I should note, like Jason mentioned, I hate the cold. I don't like being cold. I don't like going cold places. And so, of course, one of the first things that Jeff asked me when I actually suggested that we get Epic passes and that we ski as part of our big RV adventure, one of the first things he said was, "Are you sure you're going to be okay?" So, of course, I had to get online. I had to do my research. I had to find out, first of all, if we were the only crazy people who were going to do this.
Nope.
And it turns out we're not. There are a lot of people. Yeah, there are a lot of us. So we have learned some tips and tricks along the way that we will go ahead and share.
Yep.
See how Dad got me the extendable?
Yeah. Uh-huh. How you doing?
You know, I don't mind shoveling 3 to 6 inches anytime, but 2 to 3 feet, that's a challenge.
There's that much out there?
Yeah, because the plows come by and it drifts. And I just finished, and there's already 2 inches in places where I started.
Oh my gosh.
So, good thing we know how to keep warm, huh? Good experience last year.
Definitely.
Well, give me a few minutes to change, and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
Here we are in the snowy mountains.
Yes, we are.
It's all part of the equation.
Yeah. So you may know that we've been spending a lot of time in the snowy mountains in the cold, so that we can take full advantage of our Epic passes and go skiing as much as we can. So one of the first things that people ask after, of course, they pick their jaw up off the ground because they can't believe we're crazy enough to do this, but they always want to know how we stay warm.
So obviously, with her always being cold, I was very focused on making sure that we could, keep the RV comfortable while we're sitting in this weather, and there's feet and feet of snow piling up outside. A lot of things we'll talk about the outside of the RV, like the water tanks and the sewer pipes and skirting and things like that. But right now, let's focus on how we keep you warm in here.
So there are a couple of pieces involved in staying warm. The first part is warming up the inside of the RV, getting the air temperature at a comfortable temperature. And then the other part is keeping that warm air in and that cold air out.
Yeah, we when we left Florida, obviously not a lot of people who RV in Florida know very much about winter RVing. So there was a lot of research going on and a lot of experimentation. I think one of the things you have to think about is, and we found this in pretty much everything we've looked at with trailers and RVs, what works in one RV doesn't necessarily work in another. Even just, the number of people in the RV, the size of the RV, when it was built, how well it was insulated, what brand it is. There's all these factors that can make something that works beautifully for us not work at all for somebody else. Or vice versa. We've had people say, hey, just do this and everything will be great. And we do it and it makes absolutely no difference. So you really have some trial and error going on here, and you really want to find what works best for you.
So warming the RV is pretty simple, and it's really not that different than warming up your house or your apartment. We have our built-in propane furnace, And then we have some small electric heaters that we use to supplement. So most of the time, especially in the cold, we're either in an RV park or in a campground, so we do have electricity.
So most RVs do have a primary heat source. It's going to be a propane furnace. Now those propane furnaces are designed to work on the 12-volt power that your batteries provide, so that they can blow the fan and blow the fan, circulate the air, and do all of that without having to be plugged in. So the propane provides the heat, but the 12-volt power provides the air circulation. That works really well, but on cold days we go through, I don't know, what, a tank a day, and we have the 20-gallon tanks.
20-pound.
I'm sorry, yep. We both make that mistake. It's a 20-pound tank, but it's a 5-gallon tank. So I keep making the mistake when we do the math and divide it by 20 instead of 5, or you do, or whatever. But on a really cold day, the furnace will run about, half to 3/4 of the day, so 12 to 18 hours, maybe 15 on average. And that's about 5 gallons, because our furnace does 1/3 of a gallon per hour. And so it'll...
and that's because it's 30,000 BTU.
Right.
And that's what it uses.
Right. And it's a little undersized for our size RV. We're an extended season RV, not a 4-season RV, and there's a very distinct difference between those two.
Although I've read that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It depends, like everything.
It's marketing.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's important for us is that we keep that gas heater blowing, because we have an enclosed underbelly, and that's where our tanks and big portions of our pipes are for sewer and water and things like that. And so when that heated air gets pushed through the duct underneath the floor, it keeps the enclosed underbelly warm and things don't freeze. So we couldn't go just electric only. That would be a problem for us, because things down there would then get way too cold and freeze. But overall, it works really well.
It does. So some people go ahead and upgrade their propane tanks to bigger tanks. For us, though, we've definitely been in places where we didn't really have the option of filling. We could just exchange them. So we've decided to stick with the standard tanks that you can go ahead and exchange, like you would use with your propane grill at home. And that works well for us. I know in that same space, I've heard that some people go ahead and upgrade to the 30-pound. It's a little bit taller. It still fits in that same place. Maybe you need to make some adjustment for it. But we didn't want to do that. We also have seen some other people that have even bigger tanks that they just transport with them. We don't really have the space to transport one.
Right.
So we don't do that. We just use the standard size.
So one time, just to give you an example, we ran out of propane. We were staying in a winter RV park near a ski resort, and we went to the same gas station we'd gone to many times before to have the tank filled. However, because they didn't have lights, and it was after dark, sunset's early that time of year, they didn't have lights around the propane filling station. They weren't allowed to use it. So we couldn't get propane. So it's really nice to be able to go find a grocery store or a convenience store and just swap out the tank for $20 or $25 for those situations where you can't get to some place where they fill them.
Right.
I'm not giving that up.
No, and it definitely is more expensive to exchange them, which is why we prefer to get them filled. But it's a matter of convenience, and I'd rather have the heat than not have it, even if I have to pay a little bit more for it.
Yeah.
Another option, if you're going to be staying stationary for probably a month or longer, is having a big, I don't know how many gallon, but they're big propane tanks delivered.
And I think it's 250 gallons.
Is it that much?
Yeah.
Wow. So anyway, it's a nice option to look into if you are going to be in one place for a while. We went ahead and did it because we were going to in Breckenridge. And the way that it works out, the cost of the propane itself, I think you said it was about 16% cheaper. So not a ton, but definitely it makes a difference. But there are some fixed setup costs that they charge, so you need to make sure to look into that. So when all is said and done, it really isn't any cheaper for us, I don't think, but it's way more convenient than having to swap out the tanks.
Every day.
And running the risk of running out at night.
Yes. There have been more than one times when I've gone outside wearing pajamas, you know. Yeah, or just boxer shorts or whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna
Like,
say for you,
why
boxers.
Why isn't the heat working?
Yeah, we think there's something wrong.
You have two tanks, and most RVs have a regulator that switches from one tank to the other. And so I'm on one tank, and that tank runs dry, and then it switches to the other one. But I never opened the valve for that one. So, middle of the night, I'm out there going, why isn't it working? So
And that's our hope, is that you didn't open the tank.
Right, right.
But unfortunately, there have been times where they were both open. They were both empty.
Yeah, we don't make that mistake very often anymore.
No, because remember, I don't like to be cold. So we talked about the fact that our furnace is actually a little bit undersized for our size unit.
What's the rule of thumb again?
It's one linear foot per 1,000 BTUs. So we have a 30,000 BTU furnace, meaning it should heat a 30-foot RV, and we're 37 feet. So we have to use the electric heaters to help keep it really comfortable in here. We've got one heater down in our room and another heater down in the bunkhouse, and that really helps keep things a comfortable temperature. But we do have to be cognizant of the fact that if the electric heaters are running too much and keeping it too warm in here, and that keeps the furnace from kicking on, then we may not be heating the underbelly. We actually, do you remember, we met an RV service guy who told us that we could just use the electric heaters and run our fan, and that would circulate the heat into the underbelly, but that doesn't work for us. So
No, I think that might work when you're approaching freezing, not when you're 30 degrees below freezing.
It's also really nice for me having the electric heaters because they're portable. So we typically will turn the heat down at night so that the main area where we're sitting right now, the main area gets cooler. We have the electric heaters in both bedrooms. And then in the morning, I have to pop the heat back up when I get up. And so it's really nice to be able to move my electric heater with me and put it by the table, at my feet, or over on the sofa while I'm drinking my coffee. So
I gotta tell you, the one that cracked me up though was we bought this really small one for use outside in targeted areas, which I haven't really done very much. But when I came out here one morning and you were holding it on your lap like this.
I was? I guess I was cold.
A little bit.
When you have access to electricity, there are all sorts of other gadgets that you can use. You can get, heating pads, electric blankets. They've even got electric mattress pads. I saw an electric carpet. And that would be kind of cool.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I saw it on Amazon. So there are a lot of different gadgets, and I know a lot of people who keep their thermostats at home lower and use things like that to be comfortable. But for me, even when we were in a house and now here in the RV, it's just important that I be able to walk around and be comfortable. And you can see the difference. Jeff's in a t-shirt, I've got a turtleneck and a sweater. So it's just important to me to be comfortable walking around. So we keep the thermostat set a little bit higher, and we don't really rely on those gadgets. And another consideration when you are at an RV park with the electricity in the winter is that it is going to cost a little bit more, chances are. So, most RV parks for the daily stays, they usually do have the electricity included. But in the winter, especially for a longer stay, a week or a month, they typically will have some additional charges for the electricity. So again,
yeah, sometimes, actually most of the time when we've had to pay extra for electricity, it's been 30 days or more, and you actually contact the utility company and sign up for it. Some RV parks will just meter your spot and charge you themselves. Some will actually require you to get the electric from the power company. And make sure to contact them when you leave so that you're not paying somebody else's electricity after that.
So there are definitely options for heating, for keeping things comfortable other than using the built-in furnace. We talked about our electric heaters. There are also some portable propane heaters. They're called, they've got Mr. Heater. There are also, I saw some people use some catalytic heaters. And they're all great options, but if you do have the heated underbelly, like we do, then you just have to keep that in mind. All right. So we've talked about how to heat the RV. So now let's talk about how to keep that hot air in and keep the cold air out. Okay, wait.
Sorry, I forgot to take my shoes off.
So one of the simplest things that we do is you're tracking snow in and out of the RV all the time. And let me tell you, stepping in a little puddle of melted snow in your socks and then walking around like that.
It's cold.
So we started out, we went out and bought a 2x4 doormat, basically, with a rubberized backing so that water wouldn't seep through to the floor. And that worked well for a day or two, but it just held the water. And so over time, then instead of having water on your floor, you now have water on a soaking wet carpet. So that didn't really work for us. But what we found one day at, I think it was at a local Walmart, we found these boot trays. And I don't even think they were $5 each.
Yeah.
And so we put one right in front of the door. So when you come in, you take your boots off standing on that boot tray. And then when you're through, you put your boots on the other boot tray so the next person who comes in can walk in and out without tripping on things. And that has actually worked really, really well. We also keep an old towel on a hook by the door so that we can wipe up the floor anytime somebody does get a little snow on there. But for the most part,
it seems to be working pretty well.
Really well. A lot better than I expected.
I know. And now we can walk around to the kitchen, because before we couldn't go that way around the kitchen because the carpet was always wet. So if you didn't have shoes on, you didn't want to walk that way. So just like a house, windows can be a big source of heat loss. If you just take your hand and put it up by the window, chances are you're going to feel some of that cold air. One of the things that a lot of people do is they use Reflectix. And that works really well as an insulator, but it also blocks out all of the sunlight. And for us, we really want to let in a lot of the natural light as much as we can, especially with Jeff in here a lot of the days, working all day.
So instead of the Reflectix, we use bubble wrap, which actually works really well.
Yeah, we heard it from one of the other RVers, and they said that you can use small or big bubbles, but that they had tried both, and that the bigger bubbles seem to insulate a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. The really cool part about it is you just take a spray bottle with water and you on the window, you stick it up there, and you're done. We've got a couple windows that have like a little frosted glass on the door, so they don't stick as well. I just use a little blue tape, painter's tape, to keep the bubble wrap up against the window there. Some of them I have screens, and so the bubble wrap is in between the screen and the glass, and it stays. Some of them are just sitting there against the window, and the blinds help hold it up. And so we only rotate the blinds. We don't open and close them. But it's great to have all that natural light come in here and to sit on this couch and not feel a cold draft pouring over your shoulders. So another thing that we did, knowing that we were going to be in the snow, I put vent covers on the roof so that the snow would not be stacking up on the vent itself and then getting moisture inside and things like that. That little pocket of trapped air up there seems to help keep the heat in a little bit. But what really made a difference was these
cushions.
Cushions, yeah. You can make them yourself. You can cut pieces of foam to stick in there. We just found these and bought them. It was really simple and easy. And we actually found that they work really well keeping the trailer cool as well when the air conditioner is running. But we just pop them in there. Some people say you should leave a vent open to keep the humidity from building inside of your trailer. So every now and then we'll pull it down while we're taking a shower, or boiling a pot of water, and crack the vent. But then just pop it all back up when we're done. Works really well.
And with those vent covers, it makes it possible for us to pop the vent no matter what the weather is outside. It keeps the snow, the rain, any debris out. So it makes it really easy to crack a vent when we want to.
Yep. They're pretty simple to install.
And you just push them in.
I like that.
Yeah. But speaking of condensation, we definitely do experience some condensation. And so that's where you want to be able to crack a vent or open a window, something like that. For a while, we thought we might have an issue with condensation and might need to get a dehumidifier. But what is that called? A hygrometer?
Hygrometer.
To measure the humidity, and we found out we were actually just fine. And you really don't want it getting too dry, because in addition to getting a sore throat, bloody noses, can actually make you more susceptible to illnesses. So we found out that we really didn't need the dehumidifier, but they are a great option if you do need them. The one thing that we do find is that sometimes we've got a little bit of condensation on the walls in the morning, by the windows, sometimes in the corners of the floor where the floor and the outside wall meet.
Yeah, usually what happens is there's a wooden frame, and then there's the insulation boards between the wood. So if it's really cold outside, that cold seeps through the wooden frame, and you'll get a strip of moisture down the wall on the inside, because the air inside, any humidity in it will condensate on that cold surface. So again, we keep an old towel handy.
Yeah, that was really, really stressing me out. But then after we talked to a lot of other people, we found out that it's actually pretty common. And so, yeah, we keep the towel, and as it melts, we just dry it up and don't worry about it. Just move on.
Now, there's one place there we actually did do something about it, and that's around the mattresses, because in bunk beds and at the head of the master bedroom bed, that mattress is up against the wall in one of those places where the condensation actually touches the mattress and seeps into it. So I went out to Home Depot and I bought this pink insulation board that you can cut with a butter knife. Not that I recommend a butter knife. You can cut with almost anything, and just cut strips of it to put around the mattresses or any place else where things actually touch the wall and would pick up the moisture if you didn't have a barrier in between the two. And that has worked really, really well.
So then one other thing we do for insulation is actually outside. We have a skirt that goes around the base of the RV. And there are a lot of different things that people use for skirting. Some people use those foam boards and they'll put them around the bottom. Some people say that just packing the snow around is a great insulator. But we have a do-it-yourself skirt that Jeff made out of billboard material.
Yeah, I was surprised. You can buy a used billboard for $40 or $50, including shipping. And they tend to be 12 to 14 feet high. So since you need 3-foot strips, you can cut a 3-foot by 40-foot long strip. Do that 3 times, and you've got 120 feet to go all the way around your RV. So just finding a way to attach it for $50, you've skirted the RV.
Yeah, and then we did the snap kits, and so under $100, and we've got that complete. So we'll show you some more specifics on the process later, but then once you've got the skirt made, it's pretty easy. Took what, 10 minutes?
Yeah, about that.
Not much time.
It depends on your trailer. If you have, slides and obstacles around the trailer, it'll be a little tricky to get it on very quickly. If you don't, it's a straight shot right down the side, and you just snap, snap, snap as you unroll it. It works really well.
Yeah.
So another thing some people do is around the slides, they'll put foam insulation boards. They'll tape them on, they'll tie them on with rope. I've seen some bungee cords holding things in place. I don't know how much of a difference that makes.
I think it makes a pretty big difference for people because these slides are not well insulated, but for us, we don't spend the whole winter in one place, and we've gotten ourselves to a point where we're okay with the cost that it takes to heat our RV. So we just haven't gone to that level of insulating. But if we needed to lower the cost further, that would definitely be something to look into.
Yep.
So this is what works for us. Hopefully you'll be able to take some of the things and use them for yourselves, but we really can't say enough. Trial and error, there is no one size fits all approach, and you just have to find what works for you, for your setup, for your situation, and where you are. So if you've found any things that work really well for you, we'd definitely love to hear. Add them in the comments below. And if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe. And we hope to see you on the road somewhere.